Hello and welcome to a Miami Marlins series recap. Here they go to 8-7 with an 11-4 victory this afternoon over the Washington Nationals. The bats come alive. The Marlins back over 500 after it was questionable as to whether or not they would get back to that point. Kyle Stowers, Griffin Conine come alive. The Marlins an 11-4 victory over the Washington Nationals. Take 2 out of 3. In the home weekend series. They are back in action on Tuesday night against the Arizona Diamondbacks at Lone Depot Park. It looks like it's going to be Max Meyer lining up for the Fish in that one, but still to be determined. But I want to get in here and talk about this Marlins team real quick because it's been kind of a story to start the season. You know, they start off 5-5 and you're feeling like, okay, well, this is a nice story. These guys, good for them. But you have to wonder at what point with certain players like a Kyle Stowers or a Griffin Conine, at what point is the good story more than just a good story? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, I do want to touch on Prize Picks. Use promo code 5 for $50 in bonus funds on your first $5 lineup or more. You're the best way to play daily live fantasy sports. Pick 2 or more players, any sport, any category, more or less, and you can start winning today. That's promo code FIVE. But I do want to get back into it here. The Marlins take 2 out of 3 in this series. Could have very well been a sweep for the Fish had it not been for the bullpen. Kind of giving away the first game of this series, but nevertheless, they do get back here over 500, 8-7 now on the season with just a gritty victory. 11-4 doesn't really tell the story of this one because this was a game where the Marlins kind of had the scratch and claw. They fall down 1-0 early on. They get the run back. Then they fall down 3-1. They get the 2 runs back there. They go with the crucial decision in a tie ball or in a 1-run game to pinch hit Matt Mervis. He comes through with the big 3-run homer. And from there on, the Marlins were kind of just off to the races. But it's really good to steal a game like this when you're looking at the pitching matchup before the game and you're looking at Cal Quantrill for the Marlins and then you're looking at Mackenzie Gore for the Nationals and you're thinking to yourself, this is a mismatch. But to Quantrill's credit, and he struggled mightily today, only went 5 innings, but he did hold the Nationals to just 3 earned runs despite 5 walks and 7 hits. Had the double play ball working for him to get out of some jams in this ball game. But that's kind of the Cal Quantrill experience. Is you're going to get a lot of guys on base, going to get a lot of traffic, and it's going to be up to him to kind of navigate and mitigate the damage that comes of that. But I do want to get into the story here of the series and really kind of a story that's starting to emerge for the Marlins this season. And that's the lefties in this lineup. Kyle Stowers this year, a 3.14 average to this point. Griffin Conine has looked far better than anyone could have expected him to. Matt Mervis looks like the Marlins got him for a song, trading Vidal Brujan to Chicago to get Mervis back, who's at this point second in the National League in home runs right now, trailing only Pete Alonso in that spot. But those 3 guys in the heart of your order right now are really doing a good job of kind of carrying the load for this team offensively. You look at Stowers in this series, he's easily the player of the series. 7 of 13, 3 doubles, a triple, 6 runs batted in, 4 runs scored, makes a really nifty sliding catch today. And that's another thing I feel like we need to start talking about with this team is every single game, there is a spectacular catch in the outfield. This is a team that right now, I mean, between Conine, Stowers, and whoever you put in center field between Hill or Myers, when Myers is healthy, and we're going to talk about that as well. These guys, they've got 3 potentially Gold Glove caliber arms in the outfield. I mean, it's just an embarrassment of riches right now, what you're looking at in the outfield defensively. Now, granted, the bat with Hill hasn't been great so far this year, but you're getting more than enough production from Conine and Stowers. Xavier Edwards, he struggled to start the season. All of a sudden, he's right back to where you want him to be, hitting 310, getting on base at a 406 clip, stealing bags. He's looked fantastic. You just can't say enough for this Marlins team. The rest of the starting pitching kind of flashed in this one. In this series, Edward Cabrera had a really solid start in his first game back off of injury. So you hope to kind of lengthen out the rotation from there. On the broadcast, I mentioned Ryan Weathers might be back as early as the Los Angeles series at the end of the month. So that's another guy that you can add to this rotation and maybe, cut out a Gillespie or a Quantrill, who, to their credit, they've done a decent job at holding the fort down to the tune of, keeping the Marlins above 500, keeping their heads above water against a decent schedule. And this is a Nationals team that really, I think a lot of people, and even myself, I was kind of guilty of this. I kind of looked at the Nationals as maybe a year ahead of where the Marlins were in that I thought that the Marlins this year were going to be what the Nationals were last year. And I thought that where the Nationals were this year is what the Marlins should strive to be next season. But the calculus on that might be changing. I don't want to get too far out ahead of ourselves, but I think you can't help but be really encouraged by what you're seeing on the field at the major league level and on the minor league level. And that's not what I'm going to talk about today, but I will get to that at some point. There's a lot of really encouraging things going on in the minor leagues that are leading people to believe that this thing might be sustainable. I've said it, or I said it on social media, on X Twitter. You can follow me on X Twitter at Eric Wiedeke. I would buy stock in the 2026-2027 Marlins right now. I think that they're going to be a really good, fun, young team that continues to ascend here, because you look at what they're doing right now with these guys, and that's not even mentioning Jesus Sanchez and Connor Norby, who are on their way back. I talked about Ryan Weathers. He's going to get back into the rotation. And then all of a sudden, you're going to be rolling out there Sandy, Max, Cabrera, Weathers. Your fifth guy you're not too sure about right now, but I don't think Robbie Snelling is that far away. Yuri Perez is going to be back at some point this season. Now, the whole issue with Sandy potentially being traded, maybe that's something that we come to at some point this season. But right now, that's the furthest thing from my mind. And I know that it's a possibility, and I know that it's a very real one, but at the moment, we're living in the moment. Mid-April, 8-7, playing really good baseball right now. And again, guys are on the mend, and they're not coming back to replace guys that have been fantastic in their stead. Graham Pauley, and right now, I think that there's a robust discussion to be had about who you want to be, who you're deciding between right now, between Eric Wagaman and Jonah Bride. A few days ago, I would have said Jonah Bride, no question, only because of the equity that he had kind of built up for himself at the tail end of last season and playing as well as he did down the stretch there. But he's had such a poor start to the season, and Wagaman has started to come on of late, that I think you almost have to kind of reconsider that, to where, okay, well, Connor Norby's going to come back. He's going to take a spot from, one of Bride or Paulie in the lineup. Usually one of those two guys has been in the lineup. And then you've got Sanchez, who can come in and pretty much take that DH role. I don't want him in the field, especially not with the gloves that you have, that are also left-handed bats in the outfield. You don't need Sanchez playing in the field. I would make him the DH almost exclusively for this ball club. Kyle Stowers and Griffin Conine, those are gloves I just don't want out of the field, especially not for Sanchez. And I love Jesus Sanchez. I think he's a guy that can be a middle of the order bat for this team. I think Connor Norby is going to be a really solid bat for this team, and it's only going to serve to lengthen out the lineup, because then you're going to be in a situation where, your catcher spot, the situation is what it is until Augustin Ramirez gets his call up. Don't know when that's going to be, whether that's May, June, July, what have you. At some point, he's going to be up. But you're looking at a Mervis Wagaman combo at first base, potentially Otto Lopez at second. He's really struggled. He had the double today. Maybe that pulls him out of his slump a little bit. Javier Sonoja, though, has been good enough to question, okay, well, maybe you sit Otto down for a couple of days and give Javi a shot at second. Xavier Edwards, you know what you're going to get out of him at shortstop. He's rock solid, as consistent as they come. Third base, Connor Norby. I think you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to get out of him. He's been really good on his rehab assignment at Jacksonville. He did mention before going down with the oblique injury in the spring that he wasn't seeing the ball too well. So you wonder if maybe that time away is kind of giving him the ability to kind of get a different perspective on what's going on at the dish. So you can only hope for better things from there for Connor Norby. Griffin Conine and Kyle Stowers, they've been two of your best hitters on the team to start the year. Dane Myers is going to be back in center at some point. I think Derek Hill is a fantastic fourth outfielder for this team. And really the only spot that you look at in the lineup and you're like, oh, well, you don't feel good about it offensively is catcher. And you're going to get somebody back at that point. That's not going to be an issue for you, or that's not going to be an issue for you down the line when Ramirez is coming up and Mac is knocking on the door. So this is a team that right now you're looking at, they're playing really good baseball, and you can say confidently that there's a lot of meat left on the bone, even in the bullpen. And as decent as the bullpen has been, it hasn't all been perfect. Ronnie Enriquez has been really good. Jesus Tinoco coming back, I think, is a big boost for them. Calvin Fauché has been, up and down, but you're going to get Declan Coronin back. You're going to get Andrew Nardi back. I think you got to like what you've seen so far from Anthony Bender. There's just Lake Bachar. You got to like what you've seen from him. There's a lot of really, really good things going on right now for the Marlins. And I think you can't help but be encouraged, especially as they play this crucial junction in the season. It was all about, okay, well, they're really banged up in the rotation and they're banged up in the bullpen and they're banged up in the lineup. What are they going to be by the time they get out of this? Are they going to be 12, 15 games under 500 by the time anyone gets back? And then we've already forgotten about baseball season, onto the draft, what have you. And don't get me wrong, I love the draft season. I'm doing draft stuff right now for the network. But it's nice to be able to talk about the Marlins, especially in a positive light. And I really think right now there's no shortage of positives with this team to talk about. 8-7, headed into a series against another team that's hovering around 500. If the Marlins win that series, then I think you really have to start wondering about this team, especially when they're getting Sanchez back and when they're getting Norby back. And then knowing that Weathers and Snelling and Nardi and Cronin are also on the way. This team's got a lot of depth. Do they have the top end, superstar MVP candidate? No, not particularly. You're hoping Sandy gets back to Cy Young form. But even if he doesn't, even if he's just really good innings eating, 3.5 ERA Sandy, I think that's fine given what you could potentially have with the rest of the rotation. So the Marlins are 8-7. They beat the Nationals in this one, 11-4. Huge game for Stowers, Conine, and Mervis. Xavier Edwards is back to being one of the best leadoff guys in baseball. Javier Sanoa playing all over the field, hitting the ball all over the field. He's been a really good utility man to this point in the season. Eric Wagaman potentially coming up out of his slump, and you've got reinforcements on the way. So, I don't think that there's much you can kind of nitpick about this team right now. Sure, could you make an argument that they should have swept this series? Absolutely. And you'd be feeling a lot better about them at 9-6 than you are at 8-7. But when you zoom out and consider the expectations for this team earlier on in the year, I think you have no choice but to be thrilled with the start that they've had, and especially from who it's coming from. It's not like Jonah Bride and Eric Wagaman are lighting things on fire. It's Kyle Stowers. It's Griffin Conine. It's the younger players. It's Matt Mervis who you picked up, and Matt Mervis has prospect pedigree. It's not like he's a journeyman on his fourth team in 6 years, who's just a nice story. This is a guy that's got a legitimate reservoir of talent to tap into. And it looks like he's doing so right now. So, like I said, there's really no choice but to be thrilled with what the Marlins are doing right now. And going into the next series against Arizona, then they've got 3 in Philadelphia. Still continuing on in this crucial part of the season, and we will continue covering it here on the network. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Use Prize Picks promo code 5FIVE for $50 in bonus funds on your first lineup entry of $5 or more on Prize Picks. You can follow me on Twitter /X at Eric Wiedeke. I will see you guys next time with more Marlins content. Thank you guys so much and have a great night. Go Marlins.